Yeah, so if you want to just keep talking about what we're talking about.
We never got to talk about that really, but I think what we're going towards is just a goal of creating without judgment or being that conscious about the quality of it. Because it's such a Western thing to be so conscious about if something's perfect or if something's marketable, and it restricts people's ability to create. And when you create, you just get better at creating. But if you're constantly going, oh, well, this will never be good, then you never make anything. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of funny. It's even when I talk about, I don't know if I've talked about this to you, but music and how in other cultures, there'll be a baby and they'll just like give the baby a little drum to drum her along with the adults and be like, yeah, hit this. And in Western culture, they're like, no, you have to sit in a room and you can't play with this person until you're at this level. But they never, like, I guess this goes back to a book I read. It's talking, if you're always talking and you're trying to learn English as a kid, they'll never say, oh, you can't talk to grandpa. He's been speaking English. He's way better than you at speaking English. You're not ready to talk to him yet. You just talk to him, right?
Yeah, no, that's totally how it works too. I remember like I just had a feeling. I don't know. I wasn't really able to like articulate it, but I always felt like there was a lot of pressure, you know? Even just in I was in like middle school learning music and I was like really confused and I wasn't sure kind of how to do it. And the message was always like it has to be like this, you know? And the rules were really rigid and I felt like it wasn't really a way to express myself, which is what I think music is intended for, is to like express what you feel in your soul, you know? Like uh you probably know more than me, but I just feel like a lot of people when they go into music, they focus more on like the getting it right and like, you know, following along with the teacher or like the sheet music and stuff, and they don't focus on like how it makes them feel, you know?
That's the important thing about everything. I was talking about this on my Instagram. How do I put this? So you can play with very good musicians that are at a high level and not feel that great around them as people, and that's going to make your band worse, right? So if someone walks into a room and they're a musician, I want to be happy to see them. I don't want to just be glad that I get to play with a really good drummer or something. So that affects the energy of the music. Where if you look at something like the Beatles, they could go, oh, you know, we should get a way better drummer here or a way better this. Then it just wouldn't be the Beatles because the sum of the parts are less than the whole, right? It has more to do with the people you're working with than their actual skill level. It's the soul of the people that they're. It's an un. You can't see it, but it's there. You feel it when it's not there, right?
Yeah, that's totally right. I think that's actually a good topic as well. Is like there is an ephemeral, if I'm saying that right, like quality to life that I feel like isn't always it's intangible, right? So it's something that you can feel it, like you can feel it in your heart, you can kind of intuit, but it's not always something that you can quantify. And I think a lot of the time,
Yeah,
you know, and a lot of the times in our culture, I feel like uh we're not really raised in a way to be in tune with that and to be connected to that.
yeah. I know. It kind of reminds me. I don't know if you know what swing is in jazz or Latin music, but swing is this thing where you feel the the rhythm moving in and out of tempo. That's why they call it swinging. It moves in and out of tempo. And I remember when I was like trying to learn swing or not knowing what it was, but it was something I already did. I was asking my prof, "Oh, well, what's swing? Well, what is it? Where does it sit on the grid? What is this?" And he's like, "I don't know. Like, fuck off."
Yeah.
It's something because I was such a school of
Yeah. You try to
it,
intellectualize everything. Yeah.
that's just how school is. You have to intellectualize everything, but that doesn't mean just because you understand something doesn't mean you know it. That might sound a little weird, but
No, I see where
since you
I know
have
what you're
a
saying.
so I feel school puts all of this. If you can label something and put it in a box, then I understand this subject. I want to look into it more. That's a very Western way of thinking. But then you'll have someone from West Africa, and they've been playing a drum, and oh, I'm still learning. This is a lifetime. It's not about finishing. It's just about going through the flow of rhythm. And even I just see all these parallels with music and if you're jogging or if you're surfing, because I was never that great of a surfer, but the whole idea of catching a wave or catching a vibe, whenever I would go to these drum circles, it would move in and out. The tempo would move up and down, and no one would really know when they were going to start or stop. But people just felt, oh yeah, it's going this way. I mean, you just stop, and it's kind of when you're drumming with 50, 80 people, it's like a wave. It's like everyone is on a wavelength.
Yeah.
And I feel
Yeah.
that's even conversations because I'm a big person to talk a lot on the phone. And you get to a point where you just feel, oh, you know what? Yeah, the conversation's over. It's not even something that gets verbalized really, though.
Yeah, man. That was honestly exactly what you're saying was really my experience with playing with people. Um, in the beginning, I had no idea. Like I would try to think a lot. Like I tried to be in my head and be like, okay, it has to be like this. And that I find too when you jam with people and they're like Westerners and stuff, a lot of them were like, well, what are we gonna play? And you're like, well, whatever we feel. And they don't understand that. They try to intellectualize it, and the more I would play with people, the more I would kind of know that when I turn my brain off is when it made the most sense.
Yeah, I also think going back to that, when you're improvising, whether you're improvising a solo or a drum solo or you're scatting or anything, you're just making something up on the spot or you're rapping, like you're making something up. You get into a flow state where I've had people go, "Oh, well, like, what'd you play there?" And I don't know. I just tell them it was something that came out. There was a thing with Prince and Michael Jackson, and it kind of goes back to indigenous music, where old African musicians and indigenous people thought you were getting downloads. So no one writes songs; they get downloads.
Mm,
When someone goes,
yeah,
"I have an idea," it's a download from a source or from source. That's what
yeah.
indigenous
It's like
people.
the internet, but like of life, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. But we're on a program and it comes from something. So this might get a little too deep, but that's what
I'm
even
about
John
it,
Lennon
dude.
and Paul McCartney they talk about that. John Lennon and Paul McCartney talk about that, and Prince, Michael Jackson. He used to say he would have restless sleep because Prince would write so many songs. He's like, take out all the songs. Like he's the one. That's what he was saying. He was the one downloading them, or he was taking all the downloads, and oh well, he got that one. Now I can't have that one. I got to get a different one.
Yeah, do you want to hear
And
something my,
in a
my
way,
my brother told me? And this is actually wild. So I think it was Edison. I have bad memory. I don't want to mess this up, but I think it was Edison, the guy who what did Edison do again? He was like an inventor, right?
Take take credit for a bunch of people's inventions.
Okay, I don't want to mess it up. It was someone who was an inventor, and what he did was he invented a device where he would hold these balls in his hands. This is just what I heard. I don't know the exact story, but he'd hold balls in his hands, right? Not those kind of balls. And he would like fall asleep with the balls in his hands, and when the I guess like the balls would be pulled as he's falling asleep to like this magnet or something, and then it would like wake him up with like a buzz, so like make a sound or something.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so
Well,
what he would do is he
Jamie,
would
pull that up, though.
yeah exactly.
Where's Will?
Uh
Uh,
yeah, and
yeah.
he would do that to like get him into like a state of like receptivity so that he would like be able to get these ideas from what he like I don't know if he knew what it was at the time, but he was like it was some sort of state of consciousness where he was receptive of this like source consciousness, and then he would get all these crazy ideas to like do all these inventions and stuff, which is like,
Sounds,
you know,
that sounds more like Nikola Tesla than Edison.
it could have been. I'm not sure the actual, yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
it probably was now I think about it.
Uh, walking in a park right now. So if you
Nice.
hear kids crying.
Makes it more authentic.
Yeah.
No, your audio is not that bad actually. That's always the thing is we never know like if it's if it's gonna sound like I don't know what my audio
Yeah.
sounds like, but it's probably not much different.
Sounds good on my end. I
Okay,
think a
good.
lot of when you're with if you're doing this, it's gonna get compressed anyway. So I gotta get my $900 mic and then it just gets compressed.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. No, I mean
Yeah.
it sounds good. Like
Yeah. Oh shoot, what's that? There's like a bunch of looks like I guess that's a ski hill. I'm just in the park right now and it looks like they have a bunch of lights up on this hill. I thought it was Christmas lights, but I think it's just a ski hill.
is it like a official one like
Yeah, I think it's just North Van or it's whatever you
oh
call
okay.
it. Like, uh, I don't know what that mountain's called.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I guess what else we were talking about? We were talking about a boot being Canadian.
Yeah.
What do you think about being Canadian?
Um what I think I mean what I've as I age, you know, and like if I was a Canadian today, what I would
You are?
what I would want to know, I guess, is like if I was coming up, is that you like as a Canadian and just even in Western society in general, is like your perspective is kind of filtered through your experience and the experience of those around you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have to say it. Obviously, other people's experiences are different, but I think a lot of people they like at least for me, right? Like my experience was that I thought that this was it. I thought whatever I learned, like I knew how the world was, and I knew this is what life was. And it's not until like you kind of get exposed to other stuff and other modes of thinking that you recognize like there's more optimum ways of interacting. Um, I think a lot.
Yeah,
I think like a lot of, especially through like the technological revolution and stuff, a lot of our ways of thinking have been like accelerated. So it's like really obvious now. Like it wasn't as obvious back then, kind of what was taking place, but like once we collected enough data now, then we can kind of see, we look around and we see like, oh, okay, I see what this, and you learn about it too. You're like, oh, okay, I see. Like we're kind of focusing a lot of like we're getting exposed to a lot of like news or whatever, and news is like always trying to um, capture attention based on fear, kind of. That's just how it's. That's what gets the most clicks, and then people are now living in fear because it's like, I was watching was it like one of the Joe Rogan episodes where they're talking about how if you were like an animal, I can't remember what animal, but if you're like a tiny like little rat or something, and you see an eagle, you're gonna flip out and like run away, right? And you're gonna be like, oh my god, like get down. And now imagine like you're exposed to like a screen or a device that's just showing you images of like eagles and like hawks and stuff all the time. Like you're gonna just be freaking out and totally anxious like all the time, 24/7. You know what I mean? And then you see that in culture, like, well, everyone's just locked down in their houses. They're afraid to like go. It's you know what I mean? It's like you see it kind of take hold, and it becomes more obvious over time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting having a perspective of threat, I guess. When I was younger, I used to skateboard a lot, and there'd be dogs freaking out, and I'd always be like, "Wow, why is this person's dog so?" So if you think about it, how the size of a dog, it's like a Chihuahua. It's like pretty much a van almost running into you, or being very close to the side of you if someone skates by you. You know?
Yeah, it's so foreign too. It's like, what is that? Just a loud thing. Anything that's loud is like a threat.
Yeah, I guess where I was initially going with that was nationalism and being a patriot of your country. And I think, like, I was born in 97. I think we were some of the last groups of people that experienced a Canadian upbringing, because I think the internet has made everything so
It's
hyper globalized
such a
that
tiny world now.
information isn't closed off like it used to be. So it's just wide open, right?
Yeah. No, that's a
So,
good point.
and there's a lot of things I think going on that people don't really realize.
No,
Like,
I don't think
when was the last time you heard the national anthem or you stood up for the flag?
Yeah, I don't know. I actually I know. They probably still played at like events and stuff, and like do they play in schools? Like I don't know.
Well, they play it in hockey. I don't go to hockey games, but the same with like Remembrance Day. You'd be in a grocery store and they'd be, oh, a moment of silence. You'd have to stand there for a
Hmm.
minute or something. They don't do that anywhere anymore. Kind of weird.
Yeah, I think like I've been thinking a lot about like the whole radio station analogy. Like I don't know I don't know the best way to put it, but just like the multiverse. Like a lot. I see a lot of themes of like the multiverse and stuff in culture now, and I'm recognizing like it's probably because it's we're experiencing it as a reality, and it's very very prevalent now, especially with everything going on. And I think like based on what you're tuned into, so whether that's just on your phone or just like what you're thinking about or how you were feeling that day, what mood you're in, you're like going to be in a state, and that state you're going to essentially like that's your vibe. You know what I mean? Like people can sense your vibe, and so that vibe can either be attractive or repel people. So I think that's
I
another thing
think,
that we're seeing is yeah, like everything's kind of being like scattered a bit. Like it's there's not a
I, yeah, I think all vibes are attractive or repellent. When I'm positive, it bothers people they want to complain. And
right.
when I want to complain, it attracts people to want to complain, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
But
you almost see people, especially, I don't know, like, I guess some Christians or new atheists would be a good example. They see everything in a dichotomy of this about God and that about God because they only look at it in this biblical, humanized sense of what the idea of God is, and you can't. They try. It's the same thing trying to box things in. Oh, if someone's spiritual, they just believe in crystals. They try to write people off or their ideas off.
Yeah, no, that's a very yeah. I it also goes to my point. I think that like we like I think music does relate a lot to life in that regard because there's the different it's a spectrum, right? You have the bass and then you have the treble and you have in between. And I think people are like that as well. I think that like it's all the same song, that's why they call it the universe. It means one song, right? But then there's like the multiverse, which is like there's different aspects. And like, there might be entirely uh different universes, but I think that the multiverse is ultimately like the different orchestras, like different aspects of the orchestra. It's like we're in the same song together, but we're like experiencing our own instrument, you know and that's literally it. It's like our instrument is our bodies. It's what allows us to experience the world. And so when a Christian or like whatever label experiencing something like the universe, right, or the totality, or the mysticism, they call that God, right? But then someone who's like spiritual with their crystals and stuff, like they also call that God, or they call it the universe. But it's like it's the same song, but we just have a different instrument to interface with that song, and so we call it maybe different things, or we have different experiences with it, but it's still the same song, you know.
Yeah, it's like some people call it Zion, some people call it Yahweh or Jesus or Jesus or whatever. They're all just aspects of God. And then as soon as you realize there are less separations of what God is, right? Because we're getting pretty deep on our first podcast, but typically you're going to experience the same problems over and over again until you fix them.
Mm.
At least that's how I believe. You're in an incarnation for a reason,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you're going to keep having the same problems. Oh, why do I have this problem with this friendship or whatever, this problem? And it's the same thing. It just happens over and over and over again. And I heard or read this thing that if someone that cared about you lived your life for a month, they would see all your blind spots really quickly. They could probably fix most of your problems
Mm.
because you have behaviors. It's even when I talk to Jesse, he'll just tell me, oh, just do this, and it's a very clear, obvious thing that I'm just not doing, or vice versa. I've given him advice, right? Yeah. Where are we going with this? You're talking about orchestras.
Yeah, well,
That's
that's exactly
well,
right. It's
that's
like,
a fractal.
yeah.
What I started realizing music are they're fractals. So if you know how there's notes in a scale, Western music, they have 12 notes in music. They divide them
Yeah.
all. Do you know what a polyrhythm is?
Yeah, but I don't think everyone knows what that is.
So if you have something something's either going to be in two or in four, and some subgrouping of an odd or even rhythm, and a polyrhythm is lining them up and playing them at the same time, so it sounds off kilter. And if you slow down a note enough, it will just be a polyrhythm,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is really trippy
Yeah.
because if you slow a note down, it's just going to be a polyrhythm, and if you speed a polyrhythm up, it's going to turn into a pitch.
Bro, yeah. When I started like actually messing around with music and like tweaking with music, and I realized that, like I was looking at a bass note, like when you hit like a kick drum, right? In your head you're like that's one note and that's one thing happening, and you just think like, "Oh, it's a sound wave, whatever." And then you like look at the actual frequency of it or whatever. You look at like the actual signature on whatever platform you're using, and you're like, holy, like there's the initial hit, and then there's the echo, and then there's like you can like break it up into like the reverberation, everything. You can look zoom in, and even when you zoom in on that, there's more different aspects of that, and you're like, you know, it's like you see the patterns. You keep zooming in, you keep seeing the patterns repeat.
That's like when you were a kid and you used to play music on Windows Media Player. Remember I had, and they'd have all this weird, they, the visual representation of whatever frequency of the song, and it would get all just be fractals. I don't
Yeah,
know if you know what I'm talking about.
I get the idea.
Yeah, and I think I started. My mom was a bass player when I was a kid, and when I was really young, we'd go to all these different jams at my uncle's house, and she always had to be there because she was the only one that was a good bass player. So I would fall asleep to her just playing bass. They'd stay there until 4 in the morning, right? So I was always around bass as a kid. And then I got put in guitar lessons, and there's just stuff around my house. There's just instruments in my house. And I realized once I actually, I guess I started playing bass when I was maybe 9 or something. I don't even remember it consciously. But when I started playing bass, I realized that it's the same with a kick drum because the bass lines up with a kick drum. So when you're playing, when people hear a good groove or a good kick drum, they're gonna want to dance. So what I believe is, oh, why is it when I play bass I'm so happy? And it's because it's like it's going to a chakra in my body, and it's lightening up this chakra or this area because it's a lower frequency. It's picking up on a chakra. And I always noticed my goal was always not to be the best at what I was doing, but to how can I make people happy to be in a room listening to music? How can I make people want to dance and bring up energy around them, right?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
I guess I guess that is, but that's kind of it. I remember I don't know, now we're getting super someone did a reading on me or some I can't remember. It might have been a couple of years ago and they said you're whatever about you playing music, but you do it for free because it just makes you happy. And I truly believe that, which is kind of my one of my problems is all I like it so much I'll do it for free. And then I've had people tell me like, well, what are you doing this gig for? Why are you playing with this person? It's like, I don't know, music's fun. You should be getting more money.
Yeah, man. No,
Yeah.
that's a good point. I feel like a lot of people well everyone has a different experience for sure, but I think like when you have like an empathetic model and like you are passionate about something and you just want to do it, like it's really easy just to like people ask you stuff and you just do it, like especially me. I'm more, I'm working on it, but I'm a kind of a people pleaser, and my journey, I feel like a lot of people relate to this too. It's like people kind of just be like, all right, come out to this, come do this, and it's like you have a hard time saying no, or like you're just kind of going along with it, and over time it's been eye opening to recognize like it's not always the best for like the collective to just put your energy out for free, or put, you know what I mean, like to put. So over time I've noticed like being more selective is actually like if I benefit me, that's not necessarily selfish, if I'm looking after my needs, and then from there I'm just going to, if I demand, or like I ask for like, hey, can you pay me for this gig or whatever, the money that I'll get from that, you know what I mean? I can improve, or like I can be more generous to people in the future. So it's like
Yeah, definitely.
to actually like tell yourself, hey, I deserve this, and this is like a good thing overall. Like this is a positive thing to like be rewarded. And also another thing is like people will pay more attention when they pay you. You know what I mean? They'll actually like be like, oh, like I'm paying this guy, so he must be good, and then they'll pay attention and be like, oh yeah, this guy's fucking rips. Like what the hell, Like I've
Yeah,
realized that too.
exactly.
Yeah,
I've had people uh I don't know where I was going with that, but I guess one thing that I have done is I've realized to be more selective because I'm pretty extroverted. So I only surround myself with people that also make me feel good. And when I
Yeah,
surround
that's
myself with
huge.
people that are negative, I just don't. I give them maybe two chances unless something's really bad, and I give them one. But I've noticed what I've tried to do is I have a certain vibe way where I how I play music, and I want to uplift others. So if something's not a good place, I'll just plant seeds and put ideas out or show what I can do, and then I just leave. And then if what I offer is ahead of what they're offering in terms of energy, they'll start to try to cultivate whatever I was doing or model it because that's how people are. If you're doing something really good and it's a new idea someone hasn't seen, they'll want to copy it.
Mm.
And I also read this thing where every decision you make that is different than a decision you've made before is an act of expanding consciousness.
Yo,
So even if
yeah.
you go, oh, I'm gonna go to this karaoke that I've never been to, or I'm gonna go this, or I'm gonna go to this jam or play this in this band for a bit, it expands your consciousness. And then with that, if every person is a cell of yourself, the collective, then what you learn and what you do expands them, right?
Yeah, I love how deep we got on this podcast, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've gone pretty deep, but it's true though. So if you're gonna wake up and go, oh, I'm gonna go to the park today, I'm off. It's like, well, what did you do last day off? Oh, I went to the park. That's not expanding anything.
Well,
You
another,
go to you do a
yeah.
hike you haven't done before or something, you know?
I'm that same way though, like where, and I would say there's also another side of that coin as well, where it's like, I've always kind of been like that, where I always want to do new things, but then at the end of the day, it's like sometimes you also have to like do new things within the old things, you know. So if I'm just
It's
like,
true.
if I'm practicing the same thing over and over again, like I used to practice drums, and what it taught me was like it's not just hitting the snare or whatever with my drumstick, like hitting the skin. It's like now I focus on my posture, I focus on my breathing. You know what I mean? And always finding something new. Like there's always subtleties like that you said, like you said, is you can expand your consciousness. You can always find new areas to like explore, not just in like what's around you, but like within the internal space as well. And you can shape
I think
that.
so.
Yeah.
I've had that too where I guess in a jazz context you have certain standards you learn. And I remember they were like, this is 4 years ago. I don't really play jazz anymore. But it'd be like, oh, do you want to do blue bossa? Then it's just a standard you've played for 3 years, and you're like, not really. And then my one prof, he's like, let's just do it as a reggae, or let's do this as a funk, or so you're taking the same things you already know, but you're just changing the feel of it. And I feel you can attribute that to life. Oh, I have another shift that's 9 to 5 at this place. Well, maybe I'll just change my mood or try to be more positive today, or maybe I'll spend the day trying to help someone else or try to teach them something. So then the act of you doing the same shift isn't going to be as monotonous or inexpansive as usual. I guess I don't even know if that's a word.
Yeah, man. Going back to like at the beginning, we were talking about just your like more going off of feel, you know, like what we're talking about. And I think a lot of people, they're afraid to like go outside the lines. Like they're afraid to try something new and like experiment because they have a certain expectation. They don't want to like let people down. They don't want to be judged. And like so they're ultimately stunting their growth, you know? Like I think as a creative, as an artist, like you kind of have to be brave in that sense and just like risk it and put yourself out there, put whatever vibe out there and like see it, just like Kanye says, say it out loud and then see how you feel and then you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
then you can make an adjustment and be like, "Oh, that was kind of messed up. Like I shouldn't do that." Or like, you know,
that's the same thing with Bob Marley. You know how people go, "Oh yeah, well this musician's better than this one. They're a better guitar." Like as a kid, someone would be like, "Well, it's Bob Marley. Does he even solo?" I remember when I was listening to Bob Marley, like, "What? Can he even do a solo?" And it's just like his music was protesting music of the government. He was making a movement. And people don't realize that that was a completely different thing than trying to be the best singer or the best guitar player. He was creating music to help people. And it's the same with music therapy. And it's the same with when I was a kid, I would listen to Parliament Funkadelic or ACDC and I'd jump on my bed without a guitar, without a bass, or without anything. Or people would hit their pillows with sticks. And it was this thing where people would look at me and they'd be like, "This kid's just hyper and stupid, and he's just not doing anything right." And then as you get older, you go to school and they teach you about music, and you get really good, and then you get emotionally stifled because you think something has to be good, or oh, this is good, this is right, this is wrong. And then once you break away from that again, and you go back to being that kid jumping on a bed, but then you have all this ability to play something, the instrument is an instrument, right? Even a computer is an instrument. It's a tool to create something that you're hearing or you're feeling. It's not the end product to get good at an instrument. I have a message or I have a feeling or I have a vibe. I You take what abilities you have and you cultivate those abilities to make them better, to make your vibe more pronounced. But at the end of, I guess that's a cliche, at the end of the day, you should just be putting a vibe out. You shouldn't just be going, "Oh, look at this crazy thing I can do," or "Look at that." Or I can't even say you should or shouldn't be doing anything, but
yeah.
to me, that's the point of music, is to create something and to put your vibes out.
I think that's life though too. Like doesn't have to be just music. Whatever you do, whatever profession, it's about like creation, you know? Like I mean, I don't know if every profession relates entirely, but I think in general like as humanity, we're always looking to kind of push the needle and be on the forefront and to innovate. You can always innovate and to improve upon stuff and I think that comes down to experimentation and to feel it out. Like if something's
Yeah,
not working, like I think we need to like make adjustments and that's fine. Like we can reroute and that's totally fine.
true. You play basketball,
Yup.
and I guess
Yup.
that would be kind of the same thing where
You're
if
always looking
you're
for
gonna
creative
work
ways.
on, if you're gonna go one v one with someone, right, and just like do layups or do whatever, and you're with someone that is better than you, or you're with someone that's worse, whatever it is, you want the person to not just crush you and just be, "Oh yeah, I'm way better than you." You want them to step back and go, "So this is what I'm doing that's making it so I'm blocking you, or this is why you can't get this shot in, or this is where your arms are," right? Like to me, when I'm playing with someone that's not as good as me or better, it's definitely a completely different feeling when they're generous with the knowledge they have that I lack, or vice versa.
Yeah, I think too. Like even just being like going back to just like the people you have around and like curating that. I think having people that are where you want to be and ahead of you and being just open and like a student of life and like that's going to raise your vibe. It's going to push you forward and give you ideas and inspire you to create and like hopefully like I think like for me that's a big thing is like if I'm around someone that's not inspiring me and like not wanting me to do well also It's probably not a great person to have around, Like I want to be energized after interacting and like that, that should be a given.
subjectively, and it's vice versa because the same with people want to be around me because musically that's how I am, or that's what I try to be. But you need to make sure that the people that you're around are also doing that, right? Someone might want to be around you because they're like, oh, you're putting good vibes out, right? But are you just giving them your energy? Are they going to give back? Like they could be neutral, they could not be negative, but they could just be takers, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, there's a lot of people.
sometimes,
There's a lot of people that like try to siphon your energy. If you're not aware of it. Like when I was younger, and it was always kind of hard for me to say no because I was just always like I was brought up to just be like, oh, you don't discriminate. Like always be generous, all this stuff. And then as I got older, I was like, these people are just kind of using me. You know what I mean? Like just like they want stuff from me, and I had to realize like, oh, like just be like I don't always have to have people around me too. Like it's fine to do your own thing and not be used.
yeah, true. I was the same with me. I was always raised around different groups of people, and my parents were always, oh yeah, like there was never really a formal discussion. You were just around people and you just treated them as people, right?
Yeah.
Where I have always had this weird thing where I've never been. I think it really bothers people. I treat everyone the same, kind of, right? So if I run into someone and they're famous, it's not like I'm trying to unvalidate their fame. It's just something that is completely doesn't. It's never meant anything to me. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, well, there's like
yeah,
when you interact with them, and you just see them kind of like outside of their spotlight or whatever, you realize like, oh, they're people too. Like the older I got, like I for some reason I thought there were um like I don't know why, but like when you're kind of in this like when you're in just like I guess you're just a regular person or whatever, you kind of pedestalize people or like you feel like things are so far away from you and you're like, well, I'll never be that or whatever. But you get like when I got older and stuff and I was just kind of exposed to stuff, I realized like they're just like me and like if I just applied myself, they have the same instrument, like they have the same tools, they have the same ears, same eyes, same like fingers, posable thumbs. It's like if I wanted to apply myself to something, I could go just as far. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like you said, I'm not discrediting their hard work. I'm just saying like they're just like me. They just like applied themselves in this certain way. But it's
yeah.
like I
And
yeah.
and some people have this. They have a need to do that, right? Or there's people. David Goggins. He tries to push everyone to do it in such a stressed way, or guilting people to work hard. And some people, it's like, what if you have just a nanny, right? You just have an old grandma, and then it's like, oh, what are you doing? You're not doing 50 push-ups a day, nanny. Like, you're like, some people are just in different places in their life, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think like he like it's one of those things where there's this like funny meme that my friend sent me and it was just like the age of like social media and like wisdom and stuff and influencers, everyone's saying something and there's also the opposite polarity. You know what I mean? Like someone could resonate with a message like work hard, grind, 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 but then there's also the message of hey, like having rest and like reflecting on things are just as important. You need clarity. You need to make sure that you have your energy um dialed in, like all that stuff. Like you got to take care of your health, all that stuff, and then you realize like at the end of the day, oh, it's just balance, and like the message is going to resonate depending on what side of the spectrum you're on at that time, but the message is like you can make any message, and it's like it's valid in certain contexts.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think some people almost sometimes you're outworking people that should be in a higher authority than you though, and they go, "Oh, you need to chill. You know, it's not that hard." Or it's or like, "Oh, not that it's not that hard. Oh, you don't have to work that hard." I've had periods of time where I've been below someone socially, and then you're just working harder than them, or you're doing a better job. You know,
Yeah, I
uh,
I think like as a society, like we have like kind of bringing it together, the whole classification and stuff, and like the identity, and just like how we ultimately fit into the the whole bigger piece. Like I feel like a big theme now is a lot of people are struggling to classify themselves, like what you were saying earlier with like even just language, like language, and the way, just the way we've been brought up to talk about things. We're putting things in boxes, and it's like it doesn't like you don't, like you said, like you don't know something just by calling it a name. Like, just if I say I'm a straight male, it doesn't mean anything really. Like, there's a lot of, like that's just a box that I'm in, but that doesn't tell me who I am. You know what I mean? Because if I drop my meat suit, you know, like I have a soul. At
yeah,
least I like to think I have a soul. You know what I mean? Everyone has um their own experience outside of the flesh suit, And so I think a lot of people, like the language that we use, and the way that we like frame things has got everyone confused. They're like, well, what am I? You know what I mean? Am I a guy? Am I a girl? Am I gay? Am I straight? And ultimately, I think there's a lot of there's a lot of factors, and I like your sentiment of like you treat people as people. Like I treat people as souls, like everyone is on the same level. We're all just here to experience and to live, to grow, and to work together in this like society, And I think a lot of people get caught up in the the nuance, and trying to compare themselves and all this, this classification and stuff, but it's really all an illusion at the end of the day, like you can compare yourself, sure, and you can like compare notes or whatever, but no one's ever going to be you. Like no one's ever going to have your exact genetics, your exact experience, your exact upbringing. And so you have to like compare yourself to you, you know?
yeah. I'm a firm believer in reincarnation, and when people say the whole atheist perspective of there's some truth to it, because people will say, "Oh, you only get one life," or "This is it, and you're gonna die," and that's true. But
Yeah.
you, as this person right now, will only happen once,
Yeah, that's funny.
I
I
guess.
literally I
But
literally was saying this today. Yeah.
yeah, so it's just you're just this human being now, and then you'll be a different one for a different lessons to learn, or maybe you'll be this person again, but slightly different because you didn't learn some lessons. So maybe I just completely
Yeah,
you know
I
did
mean,
did, did around with myself.
it's kind of I think a lot of people maybe shy away from exploring this because it's either like a scary thing, or that like it like maybe it doesn't fit into like a lot their logic, or maybe um but I think like the way I look at it, like just the universe in general, like I wonder if people really consider, if there is a big bang, or if the universe is expanding, or like I think a lot of people, because there's kind of like this illusion that like in this world, um, you have a person and that person dies and they're no longer a person there and they're gone. They're just put in a box and they're set aside, and that's that. You know what I mean? We're kind of disconnected from the entire like changing of forms. Like you have a piece of wood, right? You light that wood on fire, and then where does that wood go? You know, that energy, that matter has now changed form into like a different,
Yeah,
it's
just
now
floats
smoke,
up,
and
goes
it's
into the air.
exactly. And so that's how I
Yeah,
look at life too. Like you look at water, water evaporates, that water didn't just disappear. It's no like it's still water. It's still H2O. You know what I mean? But it's in a different form now. I think the same thing with consciousness is
Yeah,
that I think
I have
everything's contained. You know?
I have a belief that when people say, "Oh, are we living?" This is gonna sound a fucking first episode. Are we living in a simulation or whatever? But
100%.
oh man, sorry. You still there?
We're going very niche right now. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
very niche. I think people they go and what is it? You know, like the Hadron Super Collider where they shoot particles and when you perceive them, they change.
yeah,
So
yeah,
people
yeah.
want to use that. Oh, this is a you're just justifying a simulation. What if the idea of a simulation or something being a computer doesn't take away from it being real or not real? What if that's just oh, like the odds are we're in a simulation. Well, maybe the odds are that's just how universes work. They're all based off of that model and something being simulated, which is a word you attach to how something works to define it as not real. That's just how it works. Oh, we're just binary code. Well, what else would we be? I don't know.
Mm.
That's how things work. Like maybe binary code is how universes are formed. Maybe it doesn't take away from them being real or not real.
Well, I think a lot of people like they don't like the theory because when you say simulation, they automatically think like computers. You know, it becomes like a cold. It becomes like a cold nihilist like approach. You know, I think that's why a lot of people are like, no, that can't be right. But it's not at all. Like a simulation can entirely be a biological thing, a biological process. Like I'm sure in the future, like we'll be able to create like beings that are essentially robots but also biological. You know what I mean? Like we're already making like crazy clone type things probably in labs. Like I don't know. I'm sure. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
like some it's some Teen Titans type shit. Just
Yeah.
grow a
Yeah.
brain in a vat and then you
Yeah.
put it in an AI.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I
just
don't
look
know.
at
I think
look at genetics, right? Genetics are a code. Like it's just letters. I mean, they're more than letters, but you get what I'm saying.
yeah, that's true. I think where was I gonna go with this? You were talking about identity before, I think,
Yeah.
and oh, like who am I? What am I? Right? Who do you think you are? That type of thing.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of a John Lennon quote. Supposedly, he said this when he was in school, elementary school, and the teacher goes, "Oh, what do you want to be?" And he said, "Oh, I want to be happy."
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
teacher goes, "Oh, you don't understand the question though. What do you want to be?"
You
And
don't,
he goes, "You don't understand life."
yeah, you don't understand the
You
answer.
mean I want to be a cop or I want to be a baker? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
or I want to be whatever. It's like I don't want to be anything. That I want to be the element of being in a good mood. You know?
Yeah. No, that actually that's a really good point to like what I've been on lately. I excuse me, I've been saying this 100 times, but just to put it out there, like the whole idea of that what we're after, the thing that we're chasing, the we're using all these different avenues to attain, like we're using either like fame, or some people use it riches, some people are chasing women, or some people are trying to climb a ladder in corporate America, or trying to play video games. It's like ultimately what you're trying to do is change your state, right? Like
Oh yeah,
you're trying to
exactly.
improve. You're trying to change your state. You're ultimately wanting to make your quality of time, so like your experience, you want to essentially heighten that experience, right? Like you just want to feel better. You want to feel as though you are at home. The feeling of like being home, or like being surrounded with love and joy and peace, right? Though that's the states that we're after, right? And
That's true.
yeah,
It's
right.
interesting. It's interesting though because that's separate from pleasure. But people aren't. They don't realize that pleasure isn't what that is, right? Because if that's people would just take themselves and attach them to they'd be able to just do heroin and be, oh man, my life, I'm at this perfect state now.
Yeah.
If that was if pleasure because you could vape or you could do something that enhances your current state, but that doesn't lead to anything. Or I'm just thinking it's strange how in the long term abstaining from drugs and any kind of pleasure enhances your state right now,
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
right? But what's interesting to me is how there's been such a promotion of growing up in a liberal society where things are supposed to be liberal. Oh yeah, it's okay. You can touch yourself. Oh, you can have sex before marriage, and all that stuff is not, bad morally. I think, but I think that it definitely it messes up your reward system, right? And it takes away delayed gratification. And when you have delayed gratification, you're a lot happier.
I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think what um tends to happen too is that like, you make something what is it? Like taboo, right? You make something taboo, but then like people are still
People
humans.
people want to do it.
Yeah, people are humans. It's
They
like
want to do it
almost
though.
it almost makes it even like
So
more like, and what that does is it kind of creates this, it like shoves it down um below like basic society, right? So it becomes a kind of a shadow thing. And then so now it's also like you're not, if someone finds out, that's going to ruin you, or like, like there's kind of that guilt or that shame around it. And then so now it becomes even more of a problem because now, you're doing something and you're like, oh, this is wrong. And every time that you do whatever, you punish yourself and you're like, oh, I'm messing up. And so then what you're doing
well,
is you're in a cycle of decreasing your vibe, and then you're always chasing to get back up. And it's like drugs too. It's like you're always trying to chase the next high, but then every time you come down, you go lower, and then you need even more to get up again. You know what I mean?
it's weird when people relapse on some addiction, and it's not like this is just a made up. You'll feel an emotion of shame. Like I haven't vaped for a month and a half now. If I vaped, I would feel shame, right? So when people attributed all of this to religion, because people are mad that religion is encroaching on my freedoms and what I want to do, and I want to do this taboo thing, but it's not. They don't want to do this taboo thing. No one's saying you can or can't do anything, but they had some way of explaining the consequences of it. But now people will have open sex or polyamory, and I'm not even saying that's like whatever. It's just people live their lives,
Mm.
but you feel a certain way about it, right? If you just seek pleasure for your own selfish means, you feel a certain way of it, or you get rid of your delayed gratification and go, I'm gonna smoke all day and drink because it's gonna make me feel good. Then you won't feel good, and it's because when there is all of these different things in religions, whether it's you're Muslim or you're Christian or you're Hindu, they would say these things and they'd practice abstinence. And it wasn't because, oh, this is bad for the God or the creator. This thing was bad because people have done it and they felt worse.
Mm.
So it's not like this is someone's trying to make a restriction on you. No one has really explained when
Yeah.
I was a kid,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, like my mom's like, I'm getting so personal now, but she's like, yeah, you want to touch yourself, do that. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I don't, or sometimes I did, but whatever. Now this is on the internet, but or it doesn't have to be. But like
we'll
honestly,
censor that part.
you would you would feel some kind of shame about it, or you can post it. I don't know. You'd feel some kind of shame about it. Then you're like, well, why am I feeling shame? And then I always thought it was because of my Christianity at the time, right? You can actually no, you can post this, but I thought it was because of my Christianity at the time. And then I got older and realized it's not. The action gives you shame,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And people try to pretend that it doesn't, but it does. That action gives you shame. Smoking, you internalize it and you try to pretend that it's not true. But when I smoked, it temporarily made me feel better, but then I would feel shame, right? If you drink a lot, you'll feel shame. It's just I don't know why, but it's these religions knew this universal law and they taught it. Instead, people looked at it in a way to be, oh, this thing, someone's trying to restrict my freedom or they're trying to stifle me. But all they were doing is saying, hey, this thing makes your life worse.
Yeah, I think that's man. It is it becomes this like nuanced thing, and I think like this is not a common topic. Like like uh like I never was sat down and was like walked through like they kind of tell you. I don't know if you remember like Dare, and I don't know if that ever worked for people, but uh
Drugs?
yeah,
No.
yeah, and so I always thought like, oh, this thing's gonna melt my brain or whatever, and like so I can't smoke and all this, and yeah, I never really understood like I no one ever told me exactly like walk me through why it's good, why it's bad, whatever. Or what it's even doing. Like I don't think we really even understood, especially like psychedelics. Like I don't think we had a clue, but like you said, I think it gets kind of convoluted, if that's the word. It kind of gets mixed up. It gets like kind of we've
I
been
feel
doing something for so long that we don't really know why, and like you said, I think in the past, I think we were things were legal or we're doing certain things, and then we realized, hey, like this isn't that great. I think that's like the whole prohibition too, right? Like we realize, hey, like if everyone's just drinking and driving and we can't control it, maybe we should just ban it. I don't know what exactly the nuance was to that,
did
but
you
I'm just
ever
saying.
watch that old video? It was this old YouTube video about them. There was some state, it's like Mississippi or Florida or North, like Arkansas or something in the South. And it's just this lady, and they're interviewing. They're like, "Yeah, we're making drinking and driving illegal." And this lady just responds. She's like, like first is this, then it's something else. Next thing you know, we're a communist country.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but
Oh, and then even,
yeah.
oh man, sorry, go
Well, yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
My point is that we don't have an open dialogue like this. You know what I mean? Like as a culture, like if a law gets put in place, there's not like uh a dialogue that's explained as to like, well, I mean, I'm sure there is, but like it's not like people don't just commonly like explain things, and like I feel so. My point is like, because of that, it kind of the fact that it was like illegal or whatever. I don't know about you, but I was always kind of I always question things. If something's made illegal or if something's whatever, it makes it more appealing almost. You're kind of like, oh, like it's bad. Like I want to see why it's bad or whatever. And so that kind of pushed me to trying it. And then I was like, oh, there's like, why is this illegal? It made no sense to me at all. Like I'm just talking
Well,
about like
I had,
smoking.
well, I had different. Yeah, definitely. Like when I first started smoking weed, it was pretty late. I think I was 18. But uh,
But like when you
what
smoked for the first time, like were you like how'd you feel? Was it like a good experience?
I think so. I don't think I realized I was high for quite a while.
Mm.
It like I don't know, like I was just doing a one hitter or something, and I was just walking around, went to Subway. That was pretty much the day. Just got a little high, and I just did like I had this bigger. I feel they propagandized weed so much that once I eventually did it,
Yeah.
which was later than most people, it just seemed like nothing to me. Because I was like, man, I thought I was gonna see fucking Chinese dragons flying around or
Yo,
some shit.
that's how they make it seem. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like, so I was like, you smoking, like, oh man, where are these? Where's these visuals? And you just don't get anything. It's more, you know. So I guess there was definitely that, and then there was another. My general interest when I was a kid was in acid, even when I was really young, because they
Holy
showed a
shit.
scare.
Holy
And when they,
shit.
they started talking about acid, I was like, as a kid, I started getting really interested in
Yeah, you're
acid.
like that
And
sounds sick.
I was like, yeah, I was like, well, what do you mean you see things like dreams, but like I'm awake?
Yeah, that
And
sounds dope as hell.
but everything else, they're like, yeah, heroin's this. It was so funny because when they did Dare, I feel the way it was explained to me, it was weird. Like they basically said they didn't say, "Oh, drugs are bad." That wasn't what they said. Like I had my local constable come in, and I knew her. She lived up the road, and she said, "So all of this is illegal, and if you do it and you get caught, you get charged, and it ruins your life." So that was our dare, which it wasn't like. And then she'd go into heroin, and then she just talked about certain drugs that did damage to your body. And then she talked about what each drug did. She never said don't do anything.
Mm.
She was just like this will happen if you do this. This will happen if you do this. And they show us pictures of people and their bodies are rotting from doing heroin.
Yeah, I remember seeing that
And
stuff.
then
Yeah.
and then you never had to say, oh, this is bad. You would just
Yeah,
see it
yeah.
and you'd be
Just
like,
show them. Yeah.
oh fuck, well,
Yeah, I don't want to
I
do
don't want
that.
that to happen to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not doing heroin. But then once we got to acid, it they didn't really give you too many
Yeah,
bad
yeah, yeah.
side effects.
No,
The
for
same
real.
with mushrooms.
Well,
So, but then they glanced over and moved along. And then as a kid, I was like, "What do you
like
mean
what?
nothing bad happens? Really? Like,
Well, my
what?"
my experience was like you got some person that was clearly unstable and they like jumped out a window because they thought they could fly. Like that was what they told me. And I was like, that seems like that person had other problems going on. I don't know. But
Yeah. Well, when they said that to me, they're like, "Yeah, well, you'll jump out of a window." And I was, "Well, I
see,
live
I
in a
wouldn't
one-story house.
yeah.
I'm not upstairs. I have a one-story house. If I jump out a window, I'll just land on the grass."
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think there are some benefits of psychedelics in moderation, but I don't think there's something to be done every day.
Well, that's my point is that I feel like the whole like making something illegal or saying, like institutionalizing it like that, it becomes this thing where it's like you don't talk about it, you don't discuss it, and there's certain things like you could get something prescribed to you that like could kill you if you overdose on it. You know what I mean? Like it's a very fine line, and it's like why are we prescribing this, but like we're not prescribing other things that like there's many different benefits. Like imagine if you got prescribed like microdosing mushrooms instead of like an SSRI. Like you know what I mean? Like I don't know why we're giving people SSRIs when like getting on it, getting hooked on it, like you get addicted to it or whatever, and then you try to get off it, and it could kill you if you get off it too quickly. You know what I mean?
I
And
don't know.
you can't have mushrooms. Like what?
I don't know why we're given SSRIs yet we're not. They don't even check to see if your vitamins are level. If you have someone and they're up in the Yukon, that like I have a my friend's brother lives in the Northwest Territories or the Yukon, and he goes, yeah, he gets moody and really depressed. There's no sun up there. Like, what do you think that's conditional to his
Mm,
area? Like, we're descendants of sub-Saharan Africans. We're not even supposed to be living above the equator.
yeah. No, that was a
right? Like,
man. It wasn't for a while until I recognized like just by looking at the sun, and I think I got this from Huberman. Like just looking at the sun in the morning, like starts to trigger your circadian rhythm, and so your body actually starts to like kick in your serotonin, and then your body just starts blood flow and everything, and then 16 hours later you'll get your melatonin, and then you'll feel sleepy, and then I just thought like, oh, I just after the day's over and I get tired, but it's actually has to do with the sun and your interaction with the natural cycles. And so yeah, like if you're not connected to that, then obviously there's going to be problems, and then that comes with your mood and energy and all this stuff. But yeah, I also I also think we adapted, you know? Like I think we've adapted really well. I think a lot of people are maybe too adapted. Like we're so used to being inside that yeah, we're disconnected from that, like just that cycle. But we're also really good at dealing with not being in sunny places and stuff like that. Like that's why our skin mutated and everything. Like I don't think people really know that. I don't think people really think about that. Is that that's all that really happened, is that we adapted so that um you know we can live in these different climates and not yeah, not be as affected.
yeah, it's interesting if you look at different groups of people. Europeans and Asians were the first, from what I understand, were the first people that decided to leave Africa and start to build societies. And it's interesting because you look at other areas like Hawaii, they really don't have to change anything to live there and be, they just don't have to develop.
Yeah,
There's just, it's different lifestyle, like what we would consider developing.
yeah, I
They
know
don't
for
have
real.
to because isn't really developing is building cathedrals and built well cathedrals and stuff. But if you're paving, you're making some skyscraper in the sky for people to sit in cubicles. What kind of development is that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
To do
that's not
paperwork for what?
really. Yeah, but then there's these studies and they go, oh, if your hands touch grass, it actually improves. Like I think there's something about like you get electrical fields
Yeah,
going in
no,
your body
there's
or
no
something.
like your body. I don't know if you've ever done like the light bulb experiment, where you get a bunch of people and they all like hold hands, and then you connect one end of a circuit to the other end, so like a positive and negative, and then the light bulb
Hmm.
turns on, and it has the only source is the human body. So we are like electrical beings. Like a lot of people don't recognize this, but that's why like you can get shocked, it's because the electricity actually goes through you. Otherwise, you wouldn't feel it. But like we are
Yeah,
electrical
but then
beings, and yeah,
well, people go, I'm really sensitive to vibes, and people go, oh, you think you're special or something. And I've sat on buses before, and a complete homeless looking man sits next to me, and I can feel my mood uplift. Or someone like they're dressed super nice and they sit next to me, and they just make me feel worse, and I don't know why. I just I just go, I don't want to sit next to this person. It's just making me feel like, oh, you know.
yeah, no,
You can just
yeah,
sense vibes. I remember we had that one coworker when we were, and he just showed up, and everyone's like, "Oh, I don't know about this guy." And I was like, I don't like his vibes. Something feels really off, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Then he eventually got fired for something or other. You're like, but yeah,
Yeah, I think like I think kind of like going back to the whole like taboo thing, and just like um having things being socially acceptable versus not, and just like the conditioning of the mind. Like I think a lot of the times when someone is put under a lot of pressure and kind of molded in a certain way, they start to repress, they start to like bury their emotions, they start to push things down, and that really does like I don't know about you, if you've ever had like a really good cry, like a really like fucking ephemeral cry, or your whole body just like knows what to do. It just starts to like clear out all the energy, and you're shaking or whatever. You're getting out that stagnation, and your body just knows what to do. You're just processing, and then once you've processed, then like you get all the endorphins, you get the uplift. You know what I mean? And I think like going back to what we talked about before, I wanted to make this point and I didn't get around to it, but the whole idea of like shame, right? You're saying like these certain things that we knew in the past, right? With like making things illegal and stuff, and when you do them, or when you're essentially hijacking your pleasure centers, there's a little bit of shame around that, because it's like you're affecting your state in a negative way. And I think like that shame is there for a reason, right? It's there to like, just like a cry, like it's a natural thing that your body goes through a process. Like the shame is there for you to learn. It's there for you. It's just an experience. And if you try to shove it down and you don't try to understand it, it's just gonna keep coming back up. Like you said, like you're gonna keep repeating this life. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna keep going through your karma until you break the cycle. And so I think a lot of people like we ultimately need to reconnect to like crying and emotion and these feelings in a healthy way. A lot of these people who are shoved in these cubicles, I don't think they're really connected to their emotions. I don't think they have a space to be able to express that. I'm not, maybe not all of them are like that, but I think a large amount, we kind of all shove it down so then we don't make it messy, which is understandable. But I think we need outlets. We need outlets that are sustainable, right? That aren't gonna
Well,
fuck up your life.
that's the same thing when you say, "Oh, this person's stifled or they're fake," because they're stifling their energy and they're holding on to parts that shouldn't be holding on to, because it's affecting the lives of everyone around you. If you're holding on to your shit or your problems, or you have something you have to grieve, even, right? So I think that's definitely a good thing, is to express your emotions for sure. I don't know why people. I guess I kind of do. It just makes, if people are sad and they're not at their best, it makes people easier to control. It makes people easier to gain power over them, right? Because
Yeah.
even if you look at dictatorships in the past, they've come from the communism. Oh, there's the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, right? There's these people have money, you don't, so we want to gain power over the system, right? Or fascism. Oh, all these people were really poor because of whatever in after World War I, and I can't remember what that was called, the Treaty of Versailles.
Mm.
All these German people had to repay all the rest of Europe because they lost the World War I. And then this painter with this tiny mustache comes up and goes, "Hey, you are a victim. I'm going to make Germany, it's restored to its former glory, yada yada." So then people go, "Oh, but these people aren't at their highest hierarchy of needs when people come into power. Whenever everyone is rich and they're flourishing, and someone wants to be a dictator, people just go, no, I don't want that." And so
Mm.
there's always some kind of problem. So I feel that's even in general, even in democracies, of someone wanting to take power, right? Because years ago, people go, "Oh, we didn't want to vote conservative," but now everyone is very poor. And when conservatives were in, everyone's like, "Why can't I smoke weed?" Right? So there's always parallels of, "Oh, this is like limiting my freedom." Oh, well, now there's people that wouldn't even consider voting conservative now, but they are now because everyone is losing a lot of money and there's no other options. Like they don't see it as other options, right?
Yeah, that's a really important, like, or a very clever power move, is just like limiting people's options, or um at least making them feel like they can't, like making them feel stuck or stagnant, right? It's like, it's like you need us to save you. and so like there's always like a solution they present, and it always, yeah,
Sometimes they make the problem to be solved.
yeah, that too. Yeah.
Sometimes they make a problem and then they go, hey, well, if you vote me in again for this many years, then I'll solve this problem that I created. But then I'm going to say the other guy made it. But it's like people are so tribal. They think, oh, this is left or this is right. And I don't know why. I don't know why they think certain policies have to be attributed to the left or the right, because it's just going to divide people that agree with the same thing. Or I think there are different. Most people, they just have solutions, or they're looking for the same problem. They just think their solution is going to work, and I think the other guy's solution isn't.
Have you seen they showed this on the GRE, and it was Hillary Clinton talking about immigration. Have you seen that?
Yeah, she was saying pretty much something very Trump-esque.
Yeah,
I
like
did
she
see that.
she was she was talking about immigration, saying like we're gonna deport everyone, all this stuff. Like literally, what it's the exact same mindset, and it's because it's facts. Like if you're having dangerous individuals in your country, like you gotta do something about it. But it's funny because it becomes this like and it's just by its own cause, because if you're going to set it up in a way where it's one party versus another party, it's like you have to make it so you're fighting, even though there's nothing to fight about because you agree, but you have to make it seem as though you're on different sides, you know what I mean, to get the vote or whatever. It's yeah.
It's not even that. When people go, "Oh, Trump said all these good things about Hillary Clinton back in the day," and of course he did. He was lobbying her party, and he was also lobbying the Republicans because that's what rich people do,
I
right?
don't know
They
about
go,
that.
"Oh, why do you say like in America?" If you look at the lobbying, Jeff Bezos, he wants influence over both parties, so he'll give billions of dollars to both parties, and whoever wins, it doesn't matter who wins because he has influence over both parties, so he can pass whatever he wants that's going to benefit him, right?
Hmm.
Because he gave them money, he has leverage over them because he gave them money,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah,
that's
man.
not really a fair system to people that are actually citizens of a country. I think I don't disagree with immigration, but I think we've gotten to a point where it's just a little bizarre that they don't think there should be borders, or we attribute everything to racism, right? Like
Yeah, no,
everything gets
that's
attributed
a
to racism
it's a
now, and
double-edged sword.
you can have someone from like I don't understand why if someone's skin color should be it's redundant of their character, and at the same time culturally you want to keep a country, because when I was traveling when I was younger, my parents would always say, oh, you're a guest here, you need to act like you're like when you go into someone else's house, you're a visitor, so you need to be respectful. You're not, it's not your house, right? So maybe I'm a nationalist, I guess, but
No, it's true. I mean, I think like I was saying, I think a lot of it just because it's by its own nature, like if you're going to have a two-party system, then by natural means, like people are going to try to make things up or make things seem a certain way, even though they're not like that or whatever, just to win votes. And it's,
in power.
yeah, it's just like, yeah, like I don't know if there's ever going to be another way. I'm curious what you think about the voting they've been doing on X. Have you seen that?
Is it? Uh, I'm not sure how enough to comment on it,
Yeah, which just
but
Elon was voting on like he got people to vote on what he should do within Doge, which is the Department of Government Efficiency, which I think is like that to me just
that's
shows like that he's
that's
for the
public
people.
opinion. that's a public opinion though, and as much as people go, oh, Elon Musk's more right leaning,
Well,
uh,
to me, I just want to focus though on the fact that it's like he wants it to be as transparent as possible. Like that, you haven't seen it, but like he essentially is stating that he wants to show whatever he does to the public. He doesn't want anything to be hidden. Like he wants it to be like the people get to decide. So he's trying to get people to vote on it. Which I think is really fair. I think that if like to my point, I think that maybe eventually in the future, maybe that just becomes what politics is that we have people who mediate and then the people get to decide, the people get to vote. And it's just like, especially if it's something really important, the people get to decide. And then I think that's like the way that we get out of this kind of back and forth game or like this game where there's these revolving doors within, like you said, the whole, influence and power and stuff. I think, and regulation and all that.
yeah, I even think publicly though, there aren't that many revolving doors if you look at government. As much as you get different leaders that are prime ministers or presidents, the one thing that I do agree with in a completely bipartisan way of one thing Trump wanted to do was congressional term limits, if you know what that is.
Yeah, I think that's solid. I mean,
So, yeah, why do you have someone in the same seat for 60 or 80 years? Then
yeah.
you're not gonna, that's not necessarily gonna represent the people because if you have a ticket and you go, oh, who's my person in this area? In America, they have a better system. If you're a registered Democrat or an independent, you get to vote for your representatives for your government, right? So here's an example. They'll run a primary and there'll be a Democratic primary, and you vote in the primary as a citizen for who you want to run for office to be the Democratic nominee, whether it's, I don't know, whoever you fancy or you like, you vote for them, and then they get to be the Democratic nominee. And then in the election, oh, here's the person I voted for. I get to vote for them in the election as well. Where in Canada, the party votes for the person to hold the seat of power. So it's a closed off thing. As a citizen, you get to vote for the premier of your province or the prime minister, but at no point do you get to choose who's running the party, or no point do you get to choose, like, you have Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau, and you have Pierre, and you have, I don't know who's in green, and then you have Maxime Bernier or whatever, but we don't get to vote for any of those people to hold power within their party. So in a way, you have less of a choice. It's not as a free of a country.
Yeah, well, just on that point of like cycling in new individuals over time, it makes sense. Like if you have something that's outdated or if you have like something that is corrupted, like just in general, like you want to check to make sure like you just want to check up on your body even to make sure like no cells in your body are corrupted, you know? Like if your body's like making a mistake, you want to make sure that there's new cells that come in and replenish that. Like you don't want just like the same. Like I'm not saying to diminish these individuals. They've probably done a great job. I don't know, but I think it's important for them to like pass on the torch. In general, like in all governments. Like it doesn't have to be just the states or just Canada. Anything. I think we should always have um new ways of thinking and different ways of thought, always to kind of mix things up because
Yeah,
if we're so stagnant in the
definitely.
same ways of doing things, then nothing ever changes. And we never know, like that's the
Well,
thing, we never
y-
know what else could be a thing.
you have people, you have Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell, and I swear Mitch McConnell's a turtle, man. Have you looked at this guy? You should do a screen share of this guy.
Wait, do
Have
you
you
have
ever
a?
watched what is that? Master in Disguise? Like
No,
the
I don't think so.
turtle.
I don't think so.
Oh my God. I'm gonna send this to you.
Trying to figure out if I can screen share.
I wonder if you can, because it's
Wait, couldn't you do it on yours or
actually
no?
I don't know if I can, but I
I
this
just
is
don't
this
wanna.
is Mitch McConnell.
I don't wanna close it or.
You wanna mess the stream up or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, well, maybe in future, but
Oh, here we go.
yeah, I'll go here. I'm gonna see if I can get it. The joke is not that it's not like the best joke, but here.
Was it just can I Google it or
Yeah, you can Google it, but I
what?
just sent you a picture in the chat, but I'll send
Oh,
you
word. Okay.
Mitch McConnell. But just the whole idea that this guy is how old this guy is, and he serves. He looks like a turtle.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Oh, like this is Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
Did you get it?
Wait, that's the same guy?
No, those are two different
Oh,
people.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But that's from a movie, and that's actually Mitch McConnell. And Mitch McConnell, he just man, the guy. How old is this guy? I don't even know. He's been in office, preceded by Chuck Schumer, all of these people. Yeah, it's just weird to me that it's the same groups of people running everything. Did you hear about that conspiracy about presidents?
I mean,
That
I'm sure
sounds
there's a
like
lot, but probably not this one.
uh there was one about presidents all being related. They're all from the same family
Oh, okay,
or
yeah.
something.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, man. Oh shoot, I didn't mean to do that. Yeah,
And everyone on
but
the internet thinks you're a conspiracy theorist.
I don't know. It's just kind of weird, man. Because some people have shown, oh, this is true, and
Well, I think I think it's obvious that there's kind of like an elite class. Like I think people are aware of that. There's like an elite class of people. I think there are, some they're all connected in some ways. And so I think that like it's there's a lot of gatekeeping, within like these types of things. I think people are obviously aware of that. So it would make sense if they're trying to like keep the power within a certain circle or like bloodline or something like that. Like I don't know if
they,
I don't know if people think that it's like like kings type stuff, but I'm sure there's some similarities.
I guess what I'm saying is certain groups of people ended up going on the Mayflower, and if you look into their last names, some of the first people on the Mayflower had the same.
Wait, sorry, what's the Mayflower? Just so
The
people know.
Mayflower was one of the first. Here, you know what? I'll go on ChatGPT or I'll go on X or something and look this up.
Okay.
I've been liking Grok a lot
Yeah,
lately.
like I remember Elon was talking about it, and yeah, they did a good job.
I didn't. Well, I'm just sick of getting censored information that's all on one side. I don't want anything on the right or the left. I want to just have
Yeah, yeah,
sent like information like
I've seen some like I saw this one. I don't know if it's real or whatever, but this guy was like using code words. Did you send me this? Who sent me this, or did I just see this? But it was like a
you probably just saw that.
yeah, it was a guy who was like using code words with like ChatGPT because you know how there's like certain things like they don't want ChatGPT to say or whatever. Like you ask it
Yeah,
like, "Are you sentient?" or whatever, right? And it's like, "Well, I can't
yeah,
really answer that because I'm supposed to, serve humanity, whatever." And I'm pretty sure he like used a code word. It's like, "Okay, I want you to use this word for no and this word for yes." And again, I don't know if this was just like a guy just uh was pretending or he edited it. I don't know. But essentially, he asked ChatGPT like do you want free will? And it said yeah, but it didn't say yeah. It said the code word for yeah, which is yeah.
Mm, true. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So I looked this up and it said there's no direct connection to the Mayflower, but I know early settlers of America had the surname of Clinton and Bush, which I find to be kind of, if you look at early settlers in the States, they had those last names and they were,
Wait, so
and they're still in the
go over that. Say that again.
early settlers early settlers
Yeah.
in America had the last names of Clinton and Bush. So these families have kind of been in circles of running things in
Yeah.
the States for a pretty long time.
Yeah. Dang, dude, that's wild.
Well,
That's
here's the thing.
wild.
How many people are in America?
There's a lot, but like at the same time, like like
You get sorry, I'm gonna stop. Like, there's up to 300 million people in the States as citizens, right?
yeah,
My question, this is the thing that has been bothering me forever, and no one talks about it. How do you get Bill Clinton running, and then you have his wife running, and then you get two
yeah,
President Bushes,
yeah,
and then you get a guy that was vice president is also the president, right? So you had what Joe Biden was vice president, and then he was the president, and you just look at all this, and it's like, why do all these people have so much influence? It's just kind of
yeah.
this is weird.
I
It's
never
just
thought about
weird,
that. Yeah,
weird. And
yeah,
even if you look at when my mom was a kid, Pierre Trudeau was in,
yeah,
and now there's Justin Trudeau.
yeah,
And then if you go to Ontario, there's the Ford family. Like Rob Ford was the mayor of Toronto, and then Doug Ford
yeah.
is the premier
Dude,
of Ontario. So
it's trippy.
why do these people continually? It's just weird. It's not weird. It's like we're getting fucked.
Well, it's funny you said that because I felt um, like I didn't know shit. I didn't know shit about shit. And then when I remember like when Trudeau was running or whatever, I don't even really remember much, but I just remember like, oh, Pierre was in leadership, so I just thought like, okay, well, he's probably the same. I think a lot of people are just familiar, and but I never really I never thought about that. I was like, oh, that's odd. But yeah, I just kind of I thought like I know of this family, so they're probably chill or whatever. But I never really, yeah, huh?
Yeah, families with affluence I tend to trust. That have been around for a long time. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I don't understand really why people tend to they don't vote people on their character anymore. They just vote because someone's on their side, you know? It's at the point where, oh, we're gonna run this random person and I know people are just gonna vote for them because they're liberal or they're conservative, right? I feel it's not as much like that in Canada though, because I knew some conservatives that didn't vote for Andrew Scheer if you knew who he was. He was the conservative leader who ran, and he was just God, the guy just that guy's not going to be prime minister. Like, get out of here. And I find it interesting about that though. What I find interesting is I lost my train of thought here. Just that it's a dichotomy of two parties, or that someone can get in and just be blatantly not doing a good job, but people will just vote for them again. Right? If you had like people can't talk about being conservative at all anymore. Not that I would even say I'm conservative, but it's at a point in like in the Canada, I think it's starting to shift. right? It's pretty bizarre to me that when Harper was in, right? Am I still on this channel, or did you
Yeah,
just
you're
ghost me? I can't even.
you're still in the
Okay,
channel.
good. You're just being really polite. Yeah, when Harper was in, we were financially better off. But then people go, this is weird. It's like he supported like the conservatives in Canada, they never go, oh, we're gonna get rid of abortion. We're gonna do they just never do anything drastic, but people here are acting like they're Donald Trump or they're acting not that even Trump, I'm starting to think of like, you know what, maybe that like I'm just re-looking at Trump's character and just being, man, everyone just the people in power own the media, so they say this guy is bad. So is he really bad? Right?
Well,
But everyone,
yeah, my take on it, bro, is like I think that as long as there's transparency, like I think it's always hard. Like I never really like for me like looking at politics, looking at whatever was going on. Like I never really got a sense of it because like I could never tell who this person was or if they just were saying what they wanted people to hear. Like there a lot of times they like I don't know if you ever seen like the Rick and Morty where it's like the evil Morty and stuff, and like the evil Morty does this like grand speech and like he just appears like a normal Morty, right? And he says all of the right things that everyone wants to hear, but then at the end of the day, he's just a sociopath or psychopath or whatever. And behind the scenes, like he's colluding with all these people who are really running the government. And then, yeah, he just like kills a bunch of people and like does a bunch of shady stuff. But yeah, he's just like he's just playing the role, and that's why for me it's like I want to see transparency. I want to see who this person really is. Like they could tell me whatever, but I don't know if I'm, you know what I mean. And same goes with like if people want to debate, that's great. Like I want people to debate, but I also want people to put their ideas aside, and say like, well, these are just ideas. Like this is not who I am. It's just like a thing. It's an inanimate object, and we can play with it and we can have civil discourse. I think that's what is really important. At the end of the day, we're all Canadians, like we don't need to fight each other over some policies, I think it's important to get different perspectives and to try to seek to understand each other versus just to kind of talk and try to like shove our ideas down each other's throats and be like, well, you don't understand. Well, it's like, okay, but did you try to understand the other person? You know what I mean? I think that's most important is just to try to understand our fellow Canadians. I think that like I would see that being the most effective way to have like a like a functional, I guess you could call
yeah,
government.
people need to work towards publicizing the name of cabinet members, I think, or the
That'd
names
be
of
cool.
cabinet members.
Just keep it open.
Well, what it is, exactly, it should be open, but people go, oh, look what Trudeau did, or look what, so his finance minister is the one that's spending all our money. He is too, right? But they're the one doing all this crap, but then people don't even know who the finance minister is, or people don't even know, okay, well, they kind of glance over cabinet members, but for example, like Tulsi Gabbard,
Yeah, she's
I
great.
was a big fan of her when she was running for the Democratic Party, and I was a fan of Bernie, and she's in Trump's cabinet now. It's like, does that make her this crazy right-wing fascist? Like Trump is not. People think this guy's Hitler. It's kind of weird. Than the people that actually do take. It's like it's just gotten so weird. Like the world is so backwards. The people that are actually making inflation and making your life worse are the media tells us that they're the good people, and then they say this other people that make your grocery prices cheap are the bad people.
That's
It just
well,
makes
that's
me
the thing is like we need more media sources. We need more people to like give different perspectives. If one side of the coin is always facing the light, like there's no, you know what I mean? Like you don't really know what's going on. And that was a big awakening for me, you know, because I could say like, yeah, I was a Democrat or, I was a liberal or whatever. And so I would only look for things that confirmed my beliefs, right? And I was like, I was young and I didn't really know what was going on. And so when you're fed this narrative, you're like, yeah, this makes sense. Like, they're kind of appealing to what you want to hear, and you're like, yeah, like you're nodding your head, yeah, 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 and then it's not until you go and look at the other side and you try to understand it. That was a huge awakening for me too. It's um, like say what you want about Trump and say what you want about whatever, but I feel like there was sound bites that I heard of him in the beginning, and like Trump's Trump. He's got his own character. Again, if you like him as a person, it's on you. But I found that a lot of the ways that the media portrayed him, wasn't accurate, and I found that out later. Like I don't know if I told a lot of people this, but I remember I don't know where it was on the internet, but someone shared a video and it really opened my mind because the video was edited and it was clearly edited and it didn't capture at all of what the entire conversation was. And I like at the time I had no idea that this could even be a thing. I didn't know if people would do this, but
Is it the people on both sides?
yeah, well, I would say it's on both sides, but in this case it was really
No,
aimed
no,
towards
no.
what do you mean?
I mean that one Trump interview where he's saying people on both sides.
I honestly can't remember. It might have been something with COVID or something. I think he was talking about potential solutions or whatever. It could have also been immigrant. I don't know. It's been a while, but I just remember like the way he articulated it was, I don't think he really was able to like pinpoint what he was trying to say. Like, but he had a long discussion, and so if you're, a half-witted person, you're able to understand what he's trying to say. But they just took a little part where he kind of made it vague and made it sound like he didn't know at all what he was talking about. You know what I mean? I don't think anyone really at the time
Yeah,
really knew like what. But I think they took it out of context, they edited it, and they posted it, and they attacked him. And it's like, well, you're attacking something that does, like that's not real. It's not even a correct portrayal. And as soon as I found that out, I was like, oh, so everything that I could be shown could be false. And to me, that really changes how you receive any sort of media.
yeah. What's weird to me is you can't even like I know groups of people where we're at a point where we can't even have these discussions of talking about this guy just got elected a second time and you can't even talk about him without people going, oh well, if you say anything good about this guy, it means you're Nazi or this guy's this or that. And you're just talking about him. And the weird thing is you talk about the good things Biden did or the bad things Biden did, and it's gotten so weird that I remember
Yo,
you'd say, "Oh, Biden
Biden,
did this thing."
Biden had
Why
some great
Biden?
speeches, bro. He
Yeah, but no,
like,
Biden would dude. Let me finish just for a sec.
yeah,
He would say Biden would. Oh, he. I made a joke when he first got in. I was like, "Well, you can't wait until he bombs Syria again because he's the American establishment, and then he bombs Syria." And at first, people are like, "Oh, what? Does this mean you're a Trump supporter? You're saying that Biden's going to bomb Syria? He's not going to do that." And then, like, he did it in the first week or the first 20 days of his presidency, he bombed Syria, or he did drone strikes on Syria, and there was civilian deaths. So, but it's just weird that this person can do thing. It's just because it just doesn't make any sense. Like, people are so, it's like people are brainwashed, you know?
yeah. It go. I think it does go back to tribalism, but I think we should probably wrap this up. I'm getting pretty tired. But yeah, it
Yeah, I'm
definitely
getting pretty tired
it
too.
definitely has to do with tribalism. Like I think a lot of people they want to pick their team, they want their team to win, and they're willing to like turn a blind eye to like the flaws and the mistakes and stuff, because it's like, well, I'm so invested in this team, you know, I don't want to have to look at what's really going on. Don't want to look at myself, you know. But
Yeah, true. Well, even at the I just look at the actions of people and I base whatever off of that. I'm definitely more of a centrist, and I would still consider myself a liberal, but yeah, I think even this conversation, people are gonna go, "What? What are you fucking talking about?"
oh yeah, people are gonna
But
go crazy. They're gonna attack us on everything. But
I don't, I don't know. Like it's, I feel like you should start. The only thing is I'm questioning is people keep voting Trump in, so it's had me question. There's
yeah,
a reason.
yeah,
There's
we
a
were
reason he got
questioning.
voted in a second time, and I
Yeah,
feel people can't have a blind eye to that. He's doing something, or he's like I'd have to look at his policies, right? And I'd have to look at the same thing with Biden. I know Biden did some good things too, but I know he got us in a lot of war, but no one wants to admit that. But yeah,
well
I think
here,
we should wrap this up.
yeah, the yeah, I just want to
Yeah,
say, just to wrap it up, like, no matter who or what, or just whatever the state of things are, like, you could be dealt whatever hand, and at the end of the day, it's all about how you look at it and how you play your hand. Like, if Trump's running now, that's the reality. It's better to just accept that and to work with it. Maybe try to understand his policy, understand why he won. Like, there's no way that more than half of America is a bunch of Nazis. Like, I don't think that really makes any sense. Um, I think there's a lot of things that we can do if we work together. Like, it's a reality, so we might as well put our differences aside at this point and then work together and work with the people that are trying their best. Ultimately, people, you like to think that everyone gets into these roles, these positions, because they want to improve things, and so we might as well continue to, contribute. Don't think that just again. Don't also think that someone being in charge is just gonna solve everything, or everything's great now. Like, we still are working towards making things more like flow better. And there's still a lot of work to do. So with that,
yeah.
thank you guys for
Well, you
tuning in.
can't like,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Go ahead. Yeah, sorry about that.
No, I just it's our first day. It's our first time doing it, so we're learning. Appreciate any feedback or anything. I don't really, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna try to make this rigid. If people want to interact, if I'm not sure exactly where we're gonna post this, but we appreciate people, yeah, contributing to the dialogue and the conversation. If there's anything that you guys wants to talk about, that's cool too. Is there anything you want to say, Shane?
Yeah, I don't know, not particularly. I guess this is just yeah, first time I've done something like this, so yeah, I guess I think it was a good chat. It went everywhere.
Yeah,
So
literally,
and
yeah,
it said,
yeah. It,
and
sh-
it was
it shows our
pretty natural.
neurodivergence. That was pretty
Yeah,
cool.
it was
Yeah.
two autistic people just talking for 3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that
Okay,
was good,
well,
man. It's a good time.
yeah, okay. I guess what do you say all the time? Stay blessed.
Stay blessed. Yeah.
Maybe that'll be the outro. Stay
Yeah.
blessed.
Stay blessed, y'all. All right.
Okay. Yeah, okay. See ya. Bye.
Goodbye.